All right. My name is Amos Patrick, and I am CTO over at Vived, and I am going to demonstrate what we've been building. We've been building a new platform, platform called TwinSpace, and we're doing this as a partnership with another company called ITS. And the purpose of this platform is to provide a uniform place or a single place to deliver both training and documentation to a workforce. That's our goal. We're focused primarily on automation, or kind of like factory kind of stuff with robots and stuff like that. But really, this is applicable to any industry that has documentation and training. And that's a lot of the industries, right? So let me show you TwinSpace, and we're going to talk through. We're going to do I'll present TwinSpace kind of through the eyes of three personas. The first persona is going to be Alice, and she is let's just get into it. Let's get into it. So let me flip to TwinSpace. All right, so this is our website. And we're just going to go ahead and log in as Alice Brown. So I'm going to click this, and these are my demo users up here in the corner. It helps me tell my story of TwinSpace. So Alice, she is a worker. She works on a line, in a cell, in a factory, or in a factory for an organization that we're calling Demo Org. And just to give you kind of a high-level overview, this is what Demo Org looks like. You can see we've got the demo organization. We got the North America branch. Breaking it down, we got a Kentucky factory. And then underneath the Kentucky factory, we've got line 1. And down here, we've got cell A. And you can see, because this one's illuminated, that this is where this user, Alice, this is where she works. She's a member of cell A. Alice is not a supervisor. Alice is not an admin. She's just a worker. She's just here to work. So when Alice signs in to TwinSpace, kind of one of the most important things she's going to want to know is, has she been assigned any training or any work for today, any training? So let's flip over to my assignment. So we can see Alice here. She's been assigned three items here. They were all assigned by Jane, her supervisor. They have different due dates. This one's due today. This one, and with a little message here from her supervisor. Please review the basics of articulated robots, or refresh your knowledge on the sensor cleaning, and also review the lockout tagout procedure by this Monday. So this is work. These are learning courses that have been assigned to me as Alice. That I need to complete. So let's do one of these. We'll jump in and do the sensor cleaning. So I'm going to click on this, and this is going to be a VLP activity. So this is some interactive content that belongs to this organization. And this is interactive. So you can see that I can rotate this around. And now as this user, I can read through this, and I'm going to kind of breeze through this, but the task is we're going to sensor cleaning and safety check. The purpose, we're trying to maintain clear visibility for the AMR's navigation and safety systems, and verify that all safety indicators function properly. We're supposed to do this once a week, daily or weekly even. All right, so let's review it. Let's move on. Oh, look at that. So now we're getting a nice overview of the part. We can see we got some sensors, we've got a screen, we've got a power button, an emergency stop, and a cliff detection thing. All right. You'll also notice off to the left here, we're getting some progress, or off to the right, we're getting some progress and some overall score. Well, we haven't done anything yet, so we don't have a score yet. All right, let's keep walking through this thing. Here's the tools we're going to need. We're going to need just a lens cleaner and some microfiber. That's pretty easy. All right, let's move on. Oh, now we're getting a challenge. So I can see, because up here, I need to do something. Step 1, I need to place the AMR into a powered off safe state with the emergency stop engaged. All right, so the action, press the power off button to turn the device off. All right, so I need to press the power off button. Let me press the emergency stop, see what happens. Ooh, that was incorrect. Let's try it again. All right, let's try the power button this time. Hey, we got it right. All right, so we're going to continue on. Next, we're going to inspect the warning lights and ensure everything's functional. All right, we're moving on. Next, we're going to clean the lenses of the laser scanner, the LiDAR, and the sonar with the microfibers. So we got to clean all this stuff. All right, and then we're going to remove the dust and debris from the housing and the mounting areas. All right. Finally, we got another challenge. We got to restore the power. To restore the power, release the emergency stop, run a brief system check to confirm sensors are free of obstructions and functioning correctly. Okay. Okay, so we're going to press on the emergency stop to release it. All right, let's do it. Boop. All right, we got that right. Okay, we're going to move on. Nice work. The sensor cleaning and safety check is now complete. And just for our little last challenge, we're going to identify the parts of this AMR robot. So the emergency stop, I'm just going to drag this onto here. The screen, we're going to drag onto here. Sensor, we're going to drag right here. Cliff detection, that's way down here. And then the power button goes right here. Boom. All right, we're going to continue on. All right, so we have completed the assignment. Now, I don't need to retry it. I did a good job. I got 100% on it. So let's go ahead and hit click done. And now we're back to our assignment page. And yeah, so that's an example of how a user could be assigned content inside of TwinSpace. We're going to move into how that assignment was created next, but let me show you something else that our user, Alice, has access to. So let me jump back into here. Now, as I pointed out here, Alice this is her membership in this organization. She is down here on cell A. So Alice can jump in here to cell A. And in this cell, she can see all the materials that are related to cell A. So you can imagine that like an organization could have thousands and thousands of documents, which is really overwhelming and it's hard to organize. What we've done is we've created this mechanism where documents can be associated with particular nodes, we call them. This is cell A, it's a node within an organization. And then users can join these nodes and be a member or a supervisor of that node. And so what that does is it allows Alice to come along and be like, you know what, I need to find the manual for my robot here in my cell. So she knows she can go to this cell and she can go to the reference materials and scroll through and see, oh, okay, here's a bunch of stuff. Here's the startup guide. I can't remember how to start up this FANUC robot. So let me click on this. And here is a PDF. This is a setup guide, not a startup guide. All right, so here's how to set up your FANUC robot. So these materials are organized based on a node. And sometimes these materials, they come in the form of playlists like this. So you can see like here is a lockout tagout procedure. So let's say Alice here doesn't quite remember. She needs to refresh how to do lockout tagout to safely do something in this cell. So what she can do is she can come here and click this. And now she's in an interactive lockout tagout guide. And what you can see over here on the right side is that this is actually two materials. This is two 3D materials put together into an ordered list. And these materials, even though these are both 3D, these could be anything. They could be PDFs, they could be videos, they could be images. You know, we're going to be adding more and more materials. So this playlist could be all sorts of media. This playlist, this one here, this learning module, this is just two activities. Let's run through this real quick while we're in here. So I'm Alice, and I'm trying to remember, okay, I need to remember how to do the lockout tagout of this thing. So we're going to be focused on this P1 step right here of the lockout tagout procedure. So we're going to step through. And again, this is an interactive web experience. I'm going to make this full screen so we get a nice big screen of this thing. And what you can see is a representation of our automotive cell, our automation cell. And here's a cell overview. Here's the cell and you will be training with today. Notice it looks like the cell diagram in the placard. You can use your mouse to pan, zoom, and orbit. We're going to click the next arrow to go to the first step of lockout tagout. So here we go, lockout tagout. Notice we've zoomed in on this pneumatic panel. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make this thing safe so that we can go in and maintenance something inside the cell. So we need to make sure we release the air pressure, and we have to lock that out to make it safe. So what we have to do is we have to, step one, we're being trained here, we're being told. Step one, we have to open the pneumatic exhaust valve. So you can see it's glowing there. It's a little hint telling us, all right, click here. So I'm going to click there. That's going to open the pneumatic cylinder. Then we're going to go ahead and put a lock on that. And we do that for safety, right? We don't want to be inside of this guy and have someone come back around and turn the power, close the valve. So we lock that out. Now we need to just make sure we did what we think we did. So we got to go down here, and you can see the step 3 is check the pressure. So we're going to come down here, we're going to click on that and verify that we have 0 PSI in the system. All right, we're going to continue on to the 4th step. The last step is we got to walk over to the HMI, and we got to try to cycle start the machine and make sure it doesn't start. So we'll click on this button. Boom. And that's it. That's how you do the pneumatic P1 lockout for this cell. Now that we've gone through the training, now we're getting quizzed. So you can see we're in a challenge now. We're doing a quiz. Let's put this all together with no hints. Perform all the lockout tagout steps for P1. All right, so now we got to remember to do this. We got to be like, all right. So what do we do first? You guys remember? We come in here. We got to turn this lever. We got to put a lock on it, and then we got to check the pressure, right? We hit OK. Was that it? Let's submit that. No, that wasn't it. We forgot to try to do the auto cycle. But we're going to move on. Let's try it again. Let's do it right. Okay, so now we do this again. We lock it. We check the pressure. All right, now we got to walk over to the HMI over here and zoom in on that, and we got to click this button. Now let's submit it. There we go, 100%. Let's move on. Let's continue on. All right. Let me minimize this so we can go on. We're going to go to the next step. Now, again, this is a separate activity. This is a different material. And these materials can all be mixed around. So if you wanted to add that P1 lockout to a different learning objective, we could. But that's a different use case. All right, so now we're going to do electrical lockout real quick. So here we go. We're going to go to the electrical lockout. You know what? We're gonna kind of breeze over this. It's the same idea, except this is for this thing. You got to flip it down. You got to lock the button. You got to lock the lever out, and you got to auto cycle it. And then you get quizzed on doing that yourself. All right, we're going to call this good. We're going to move on. Okay, so what we've covered so far is Alice has come in, and she has shown up to work, and she's done 2 things now. She knows she's able to find the things that have been assigned to her, and she's been able to find reference materials and learning courses for content that is applicable to her cell, to her work zone, to where she works. All right, let's next talk about how that assignment was created. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign out Alice, and we're going to sign in as Jane. If you remember, Jane is who assigned those activities to Alice. So we're going to sign in Jane now. Give it a second. Now, Jane is a supervisor. We'll look at the org chart and we'll see where Jane operates. But Jane is a supervisor. So I'm signed in now as Jane. Let's look at the organization chart and understand where Jane lives. So you can see again in our org chart, Jane is a supervisor of both line 1 as well as cell A. Now, Jane, when she shows up at work, she's got some different objectives than Alice. What Jane wants to do, she's a supervisor. So she wants to check and make sure she's going to do 2 main things. She's going to assign new assignments to the people in her cell. And she is going to be checking up and making sure those assignments are getting completed and just keeping tabs on the training levels of her cell. So let me go down here and we're going to click into cell A again. It's the same cell, except now we have an assignments tab. And so this is where Jane can roll in And she can look at, all right, here are the active assignments. There's 5 assignments sitting out there. You can see that, Alice has been assigned that articulated robots. Alice has been assigned to do the lockout tagout. Charlie, another member of the cell, has been assigned to do lockout tagout and that sensor cleaning. Charlie also needs to get going. He needs to do this SCORM package here. All right. So this is an overview. She can, Jane as a supervisor, she can get a nice overview about where the training status is right now. She can see that it's 85% complete, 15% incomplete. She can also review how the users, how her members are doing. So she can see this cell has 2 members, Alice and Charlie. And you can kind of see, oh man, it looks like Charlie's falling behind. Charlie's only got 50% of his work done. Alice, on the other hand, she's getting there. She's got 82% of her work done. I forgot to show one thing on the assignments. These are the active assignments. These are ones that are waiting to be completed. We can flip it to completed assignments, and we can kind of scroll through here and keep track of this stuff. Oh man. For example, we can see Alice did the articulated robots down here. She only got a 0%. Maybe we should reassign that to her, okay? So that's how Jane, the supervisor of Cell A, can keep track of what's going on with here. Jane can also assign any content that is associated with this cell into to a particular user. So let's do that real quick. Let's jump over here to learning modules and let's take a look. Let's say, okay, this advanced operations, what do we have in here? Okay, this advanced operation is there's going to be a sensor cleaning 3D activity. There's a drawing that's a PDF, and then there's an interactive 6-degree freedom robot. All right, let's say we need to assign that to Charlie. Charlie needs to take this course. We need to get Charlie trained up on that. So what we're going to do is, as a supervisor, I can come in here and I'm going to assign this to Charlie. We can set a due date. We can say, let's do this by Tuesday. Review this playlist. I don't know. Review this playlist, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Boom. I've assigned that to Charlie. Now when Charlie logs in, he gets notified. Boom. You gotta do this thing. And it's going to show up over here now. Let me get to completed assignments. So here you can see Jane can keep track of Charlie. We can see it's due on this date. We have a little message for him. And we can keep track as to when this thing gets completed. All right. So now let's talk about how all of this content is the administration level of all this stuff. So I am going to log out as Jane, and we're going to log back in as another user. This is Bob. We're going to log in as Bob Johnson. Bob is an organizational admin. Bob is not necessarily on the floor. Bob is probably a nerd up in the offices running a computer. All right? Bob has access to everything. And so if I go to the admin chart here, or the org chart, you can see Bob can go to any of the nodes. Bob has access to everything. Bob can actually create a new node. Bob can reorganize the chart here. Bob has, he's the one in charge of organizing all this stuff. Now, Bob's main job is one of the first things Bob is going to do is he is responsible for adding new reference materials. So if you remember, we talked about reference materials. This is the global library. This is all the reference materials in the entire organization. Bob has access to all of them. And we do some filtering. Like if we want to see what is in the AMR robot, we can do that. So we got some filter tips we can go through to help Bob look around. But ultimately, Bob is responsible for curating this, making sure if he needs to add a new reference material, let's say he gets a new SCORM package or something, he can create a new reference material by clicking on this, and he can upload one of these files. We've got a short list right now where we're adding more and more. You can imagine we want to support images and videos and maybe some Google Drive integration. We're open to ideas on what we should support here. But right now we can add a 3D interactive thing. We can add a PDF. We can add a PowerPoint, and we can add a SCORM package. We can also, there's linkage to, you're going to be linking, you can link a VLP activity, and I won't get too deep into the VLP activities, but definitely reach out if you have questions. VLPs are, they're activities created in the Viv Ed Learning platform, and they're these interactive, like, it allows non-technical people, it provides an authoring tool for non-technical people to create those examples like the lockout, tagout, like the AMR. Those were created in the VLP. And you don't have to write any programming. You can just go in there and you can create stuff with your models. So if you've got models and you want your users to be able to do stuff with those 3D models, we've got that covered. We can do that. You can add that without any programming right to this thing and create training around it. Okay, so Bob, as an admin, he can create he can set up these resource materials. He can archive them. He can edit them. He can do all that stuff. Bob can also create the playlists. So Bob can come in here and he can create a new learning module, create a new playlist and he can just add whatever reference materials he wants into that thing. And they get presented in that order to the user. So he can order out, or he can set an order and say, all right, do this video, review this picture, read this PDF, and then do this SCORM package, and then do this interactive content. He can put that together right here in this dashboard. No programming. Now, I haven't really touched on equipment. Let's talk about the equipment library. You might have seen in the cells they had an equipment tab. Equipment is simply a bundle. It's a container for reference materials like these and playlist. That's all it is. We're calling it equipment here. You could think about it as a course. You could think about it as a package. You could think about it as a container of both playlists and material. So for example, we've got this conveyor system. And in this conveyor system, we have added 3 materials that are all 3D interactive materials and 2 playlists. And the idea behind this is a factory or an organization is going to have a lot of equipment that is reusable, that's being used in a lot of places, right? So we've got this industrial robot arm, or let's say a CNC machining center. Now let's go with the robot arm. We've got a robot arm. This thing's got 3 playlists and two 3D things with it. And we think that, what we've decided is that this industrial robot arm, it might be needed in, 5 different cells, right? This robot arm could be used 10 times in the factory, the same robot arm in 10 different places. What's changing is probably the end of arm tooling, right? So the robot arm is the same. So this allows us to create a container to collect up all the common stuff for this robot arm, and it just makes it so much easier to both update or add that content to a node and also update that and populate content. We're also planning on allowing this concept equipment to cross organizations. So you can imagine if I am an organization that is putting together all the training for this robot arm, I could form an agreement with another organization where they can use my equipment. And so with a click of a button, that organization now has access to all this content and everything they need. All right. So Bob is responsible as an admin for putting this all together. He's the curator of all the knowledge here. All right. That's one of Bob's main tasks. The second main task is the organization of this, not just the curation of the content, but the organization of the content. So Bob can jump in, and let's keep going with cell A. Bob knows that he needs to add some content to cell A. So Bob's going to jump down here to cell A, and what Bob can do is he can go to either equipment, reference materials, or learning module. Let's go to reference materials, and he can add a reference material. He can either create a new one, if he has a PDF or whatever, he could do that right here, and it'll add it to the global library as well as link it to this node. or he can add existing reference. So if I click on this, he can run through his standards, and let's say he wants to add this Industry 2.1 standards SCORM package to this node. Now he can just as quickly as that has been added to this cell A. And now think back through our example. Now Jane, the supervisor, can review can assign that SCORM package to any of the users, to Alice to complete. And this is like, it's a reference, right? It's not an instance. So this same SCORM package can be used on 5 different factories, and we could just kind of link it around. It's all linked. All right. Real quick, make sure I covered everything. I think I did. So that is a broad strokes overview of TwinSpace. And hopefully you can see what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create a nice cohesive experience to both have an online library of all your documentation, of all your training, and then provide organizational tools so that training can be assigned to your employees and tracked and scored. And also your people can find the documentation that they're looking for. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Be sure to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.